Good morning, sports fans.
I'm Eric Hatfield.
And I'm Coach Perry Daniels.
And you are listening to 88.3 KPCP, the voice of Point Capee.
This is Louisiana All American Sports radio show, where we're going to give you the best in high school, college, and professional sports.
Don't ask me, I'm just so fresh. So I can still sing along to it.
That was a different rendition of our normal intro music. So fresh, so clean, normally provided to us by Outkast. Today is a special day in the Baton Rouge community area. That version of So Fresh, So Clean was supplied to us by the great band at Southern University under the direction of the late, great Dr. Isaac Greggs.
Dr. Isaac Greggs passed away this past Monday in Baton Rouge at his home. He was 85 years old. If you've been in Baton Rouge, or for that matter in Louisiana for any length of time, you're probably very familiar with the Human Jukebox, the Southern University Marching Band. That is the intellectual brainchild of the perfectionist, Dr. Isaac Greggs.
Man, and his level of perfection took that band, not only Southern University's band, but marching bands around the world to the next level, Eric. You know, he put in a system at Southern University that they are currently using to this day. You know, they have a system to where when you come in as a freshman, you are the low man on the totem pole in the marching band. And those of you out there that have been in the band, you know better than I. I've never had a chance to experience that. However, I've always admired that whole process. And when you come in as a freshman, you are a crab. And you don't have to be a freshman in classification. If this is your first year in the band, you are considered what they call a crab. And you don't become an official band member until the Bayou Classic, which is an annual game played between Southern University and Grambling. That is your official entrance into the marching band. So it's a beautiful thing. A lot of you around the country have seen Southern University's marching band perform before and didn't even realize it. They've done a number of Super Bowls. They do Rose Bowl parades, May Day parades. Anytime you see that all African, well, they're not even all African American anymore.
Right.
At one time, they were all African American male, and Dr. Greggs took a lot of flack for the famous dancing dolls all being fair-skinned, and a lot of folks said he had a lot to do with that.
It didn't bother me much for some reason. But I really wasn't evaluating their skin tone, but that's just me. I was looking at the whole picture. I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, but the band is world-renowned, and they are world-renowned because of his perfectionism. And I was going down the road of that they've performed in all these different places, and you may have seen the Dancing Dolls. Anytime you see that marching band, a college marching band with that big S on their chest, the Human Jukebox is what they were affectionately called, and to this day we still refer to the Southern University Marching Band as the Human Jukebox. So big props to your legacy, Dr. Greggs. You have made an impact on a number of lives, and we miss you already. As I see people that former band members, Eric, this is very emotional for them. Because he took on a father figure persona for a lot of them.
Right. No, you're right about area code 225-343-9927, 225-343-9927 to get it on the conversation. If you were connected, if you have feelings on this at all, please feel free to join in and share as we remember this great man. I had a close childhood friend, Kenneth Belanger, he and his brother Kevin were in the marching band. Kenneth was a drum major, and I'll tell you, I could just the pride and the camaraderie and the fraternity in that it's something that lasts for life. Even now, when I talk to him, we're both in our late 30s. He speaks very fondly of those times, and you multiply that over all the years he was at that school and just all the lives he shaped and influenced. I mean, this was a local treasure and a regional treasure, and he produced a national treasure in that human jukebox, and you could see its influence not just in Louisiana, but even in other bands as other HBC, imitation's the greatest form of flattery.
That's right.
Other HBCUs, of course, had to step their game up, and now you look at Ohio State University, and you mentioned their band director was formerly at Morehouse.
Yes.
Took it up there, and if you Google some of the Ohio State University marching band videos, it's something else. It'll flip your head out. They stepped it up.
They are the latest craze on the internet when it comes to marching bands.
Yeah.
Also, though, Eric, that what has become synonymous with LSU as far as the cameo, talking out the side of your neck, music that they play.
Right.
Southern University and Dr. Greggs was playing that 10 years before LSU started playing.
Right. Oh, yeah, and that's way before that. Yeah, I mean, I knew. It's funny because when I watched it around the turn of the 21st century is when LSU started taking that in, and the students just loved it.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, we're just getting on board with this. I'm like, I'm just going to sit back and watch.
And it's going to become synonymous with LSU now.
Right.
People associate it with it.
That's right. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and I'll tell you, that's all goes back to the brainchild of Dr. Greggs, a true genius at his craft, a true perfectionist.
Yeah. So again, we can't say enough kind words about that gentleman, and we just give our sincerest condolences to his family and to the Southern University former band members and the Southern University family that are in mourning now over his loss.
Do we want to launch into a little?
Most definitely. We got a full schedule, man. All
right. Well, 225-343-9927. 225-343-9927. Let's go on to the diamond. LHSAA 2014 LHSAA baseball playoffs are in full swing. We have a handful of schools from the Baton Rouge area involved. Let's just jump right in to Class 5A. Catholic High here in Baton Rouge advanced to the second round, defeating Covington 8-4 last week. They are right now in a best-of-3 series with Ruston. They lost yesterday 7-0. So the Bears are going to have to get it together. I'm not sure if Ross Massey pitched in that game or not with a 7-0 score. I'm going to assume he did not. Maybe they saved him for game 2, but I did not have a box score on that. Santa Maria defeated Fontainebleau in the first round, kind of nipped them a little bit, and they were heavy favorites, but they rebounded yesterday as they are facing Shaw out of New Orleans, and they are up 1-0 in that series. They won 3-1 yesterday. Dutchtown smoked Lafayette in the first round, and they also beat Denham Springs 3-2 yesterday. Denham Springs advanced to the second round by beating Airline. Denham Springs is the whole school in that series. Central High lost to Jesuit, but I'll tell you, they were heavy underdogs. Jesuit was a 3 seed. They are a perennial baseball powerhouse. Central was 30th. Now, I don't know the order of it, but the final was 7-4, so they did not get wiped out by the mercy rule, which a lot of teams did in the first round. Jesuit goes on. They're facing Rummel. They're up 1-0 in that series. East Ascension pulled a shocker over Como. 26th-seeded East Ascension over 7th-seeded Como. They won 3-2 last week. They lost, however, to Live Oak yesterday, who advanced to the second round with a win over Sam Houston. They lost 8-7 to Live Oak, so it's like all of a sudden something just emerged in East Ascension. We'll see what they have. Zachary defeated West Monroe in the first round. They're facing Brother Martin. I think they meet their Waterloo here. They lost 4-2 yesterday. That second game starts at about at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Brother Martin is another juggernaut. I think that's probably where their run ends. District 4, Class 4A, not a whole lot of Baton Rouge influence. We had St. Michael the Archangel. They beat Beauchene 15-5 in 6 innings. They face Eunice next week. I believe that game is on Tuesday. St. Thomas More up the road in Lafayette, number 1 overall seed in Class 4A. We've talked about them. They have a lot of talent on that team, and while they're not Baton Rouge, I figure we mentioned them because they're really good. They destroyed Grant. They face Minden today. Be interesting to see where moseys along. John Curtis out of the New Orleans area, they're not just dominant. We're seeing a pattern here of dominance in football and in baseball. We talked about the SEC, how...
Hey, man, they won the basketball state championship last year as well.
That's right. I forgot. They're just a machine. Just see them cranking out. They're number one overall seed. They obliterated Vidalia 15-0 in 5 innings. They play Notre Dame. I'll just keep an eye on those guys. Parkview Baptist right here in the Baton Rouge area advanced. They beat Port Barry in the first round. They play Iowa next week. Albany pulled off an upset over North Vermilion, who was seeded 5th, 5-3, and they're waiting for the winner of the North Webster and LaRanger game. U-High just pounced all on Gina, 15-2, and they play Jennings next week, Tuesday at 5:30. They will face Jennings in the second round. Bruley up the road defeated Patterson, and they will face Erath next week.
Before you move on out of 3A, man, a state order was issued that escorted Livonia into the playoffs. Do we have an update on that?
What? They're a 2A school, right? Or
3A.
3A. Drum roll. I don't.
Maybe it's 2A.
I did hear that though. I heard that on the radio. I'm glad you interrupted me because I did hear that on the radio.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna if I don't have it in my highlights, I will go back and find it because I did hear that.
Yes.
Bring everyone up to speed. Livonia. There was an issue involving an ineligible freshman player. They had to forfeit, 17 baseball games?
Right.
I mean,
18, I thought.
18, that's right. 18 baseball games. They were ranked. They had their spot in the playoffs, and having to vacate those wins, it bumped them out. They went to court. It's getting a little messy. It was really a technicality. On what they failed to apply for a hardship for this student. There was a residential issue. It was really complicated. But Livonia, like Perry said, got a court order, and they said you got to let these kids play.
Let these kids play. One game, they had to go on the road to play that game.
Right.
And we'll bring you that update shortly. I didn't mean to keep flowing.
No, definitely. I'm glad you jumped in with that because that was important. Redemptorists in Class 2A, they might be struggling to rebuild their legacy on the gridiron, but not on the diamond. AC, they hammered Fisher 14-3 in 5 innings, and they will on Tuesday face Opelousas Catholic in the second round. Doyle, our friends way out in Livingston Parish, their season kind of came to a shocking end, losing 5-1 against 22nd seeded Runnels. And finally, Episcopal defeated Calvary Baptist. They called the Calvary and took out the Calvary. And now they'll be facing Kinder on Tuesday. Kinder is the real deal. That probably their run comes. They're going to need the Calvary for Kinder, but still very good for Episcopal advancing to the second round. Our friends, you want to talk about some irony, maybe a little revenge game. You know, a lot of these kids who play one sport play another.
Sure.
And if you'll recall, back in November, the Southern Lab Kittens went up to Ouachita Christian in football, pulled off a shocking upset, pulled off some trickery. They had Derek Pate, who's normally a receiver and running back, at quarterback, who ran all over them. They weren't prepared for it. They beat Ouachita Christian at their field for the first time in like 2 years, if I remember. Well, Ouachita Christian returned the favor on the diamond yesterday. The top-seeded Ouachita Christian shut out the Southern Lab Kittens 14-0 in the first round in 5 innings. Of course, Ouachita Christian is the number 1 overall seed, but still, good job by the Kittens. It looks like they're building a little baseball program over there. They were in the dance.
Surprising in itself.
That's a step. Our friends over there, assistant coach Eric Holden, he's a personal friend of mine, and I hope I get the head coach's name right. A gentleman named Coach, I want to say his name is Alexander. I hope I got that right. I should have jotted that down, but you guys did a great job over there. So keep it up, keep the improvement going. You could just see the development in that team, in that school. Central Catholic rubbed out False River 11-0. So that will end the False River Academy season. Christian Life, our friends over at Christian Life, were eliminated by St. Edmund. I got it. They were eliminated in the eliminated by St. Edmund, so that ends the Christian Life Crusaders run. And finally, in Class C, our friends over at Family Christian Academy right up the road, they face Ebarb today at 1 o'clock. They are seated 6th, and they are the host school.
Awesome, awesome. That wraps up our high school report. One last thing on the high school report. Coach Kevin Jackson and the White Castle Bulldogs have an opportunity to win the state championship in Class 1A track and field.
Oh, wow.
They won the regional. So big props to Coach Jackson and our good friends out at White Castle High School.
Absolutely. Awesome. Do we have a guest on the line?
We do have a guest, man, on the line. We have the legendary Lee Klein, who is the owner and director of 5-Star Basketball. Coach Klein, can you hear me?
I can. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Let's jump right into this thing, Coach. A lot of people in this part of the country are not very familiar with your brand and what you do. If you could just explain a little bit about 5-Star Basketball.
Certainly. This is year 49 for 5-Star. We have camps throughout the country, and it's really the place we call the last bastion of teaching, the place where the teaching never stops. And for years, it's been the place where good players came to get better, and players that are trying to figure out how to make their team or how to elevate from JV to varsity or be of a college-level player have went to get their game right and perform against their competitive peers.
Hey,
so
Coach.
We've been fortunate. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go. Go ahead. You've been fortunate?
We've been fortunate to work with over 500 players that have moved on to the NBA, from LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving, John Wall, Michael Jordan, you name them. They all came through 5-Star and tried to, get a feel for how to play the game, how to play it better, gain 3 or 4 things, developed it into skill, and lo and behold, they're having great success with it. So
Absolutely.
5-Star is also about the teaching and getting better.
Absolutely. Coach, if a parent out there listening or one of our coaches in our area out there listening, how can they get their kids involved in 5-Star basketball camps?
Well, the best way to get involved, just go right onto the website, 5starbasketball.com/camps. Look for, we got a number of camps in Texas and Florida, states that surround Louisiana. Look for the date and location that works best for you. Go right on there, register, or call the office. We've had a great history with kids from Louisiana from back in the day, whether it been Professor Irvin and Chris Duhon and moving up, Tweety Carter
yes.
ago and so on. So we've had a great history with Louisiana kids coming through 5-Star, working on our game and developing, and we look to continue that history.
Awesome. Hey, Coach, man, now I would be remiss if I didn't get your thoughts on the state of the game of basketball. You are aficionado in my eyes, and a lot of college coaches I know have you on speed dial. Let's talk a little bit about the state of basketball and where it is in your opinion.
Well, one of the biggest, it's interesting because we have more kids playing the game than ever before. We have probably the most athletic quotient per player than ever before. So with those encouraging signs, the one thing that we're battling is what I call short-termism, which is really wreaks havoc on the overall game, both overall basketball and one for the player. And that's the short term. Guys have got to have vision and invest in the long term and stop settling for this tournament, this weekend. You got to always invest in your game. What investments are you making to get better? What investments are you making to get to where you want to go? And we have to stop settling with the short term, which is everything from a selfish play to basically I can go right and I only go right and I never really work on my left.
Right.
So those types of things we really are battling today more so than ever before, short-termism within basketball, and that comes from the other side of it too, from those that really are in charge of the game, have got to really look for the long-term best interests of the players and have to really examine how much wear and tear we're putting on these young kids' bodies by having them play year-round. We got to really look at how much they travel, what they're eating, and make sure that we're giving these kids skills for long-term success that will extend well past the game that they're playing, well past their playing career. And so if anybody's out there listening, it's really what I would beg them to really invest into the long term of the kids.
Coach, Eric Hatfield here, Louisiana All American Sports. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm going to bring up the dreaded three-letter A word, AAU. What is the connection or relationship between five-star basketball and AAU?
Well, AAU is here and is here to stay, and AAU is not a bad thing. But as in everything, it has to be in moderation. Every kid needs to train and drill, and they've got to have that competitive feel to see it work in the game to build confidence behind it. So 3 or 4 tournaments over the course of the spring and the summer with a lot of individual drill work, a camp, those would be the best formula for it. If all you're doing is running from game to game and playing games, then you're never in the lab working on your game. You're not going, all you're going to do is reinforce what you're able to do and as well reinforce bad habits. You have to work on your game. And so, in regards to AAU, so they're great, some outstanding AAU programs and coaches out there and so many that have helped kids. But now we've got to make sure that we're properly guiding to a balanced portfolio, if you will, as a basketball player to give them the best chance to be successful and not just settle on, games and tournaments, but to really be teaching and developing and making sure the kids are going and working in the gym on their bodies and working on their game on their own. The kid has to have some self-motivation if he's going to be successful in this thing.
Most definitely, most definitely. Coach, here's our last question. We're talking basketball, and unless people have been under a rock, they know the issues that have been highlighted recently in the world of basketball at its highest level in our country. If we could just get your thoughts on the Donald Sterling situation and how the NBA has responded to it.
Well, it's great. Society learns so much from sports. We really, we always say it's a microcosm of society, but really sports is a leader to how, and many years ago, sports, broke color barriers and that part. And hopefully that through this, sports will once again be a teacher and teach society that there's no room for racism and there's no toleration for it. The other aspect of it, and if I had one little hope that maybe is unfulfilled at this time, would be a great opportunity for the NBA also to look really closely at their clientele and stop pricing out low and middle income families from being able to attend the games and make a concerted effort so that the game is not just to be consumed via in person, 90% by upper wealthy, if you will, white America. So this would be a great opportunity for the NBA to address that in this era of luxury box and skyrocketing tickets.
Awesome. Hey, Coach, man, I know you're busy, and you stepped away from a symposium, a clinic, to join us, and we appreciate that here at Louisiana All American Sports. I want to take the time here, though, Coach, to let you know, man, that I love what you do, and I really appreciate what you have done for me personally, my family, and what you do for these kids. The one thing that I love about five-star basketball is it shows the benefit of hard work. If you go to a five-star camp, you're definitely going to work hard. And we need more of that in society. And I just thank you immensely, Coach.
Oh, it's my pleasure. That's why we need to get you back on the sidelines here. We get you back this summer.
Yes, sir. I think I found. I think I found at least one of the camps that I can attend, and I'll talk to you more about that a little later on this week. But we're bringing some Bel Air Bengals, the high school team that I volunteer for.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Coach. Much appreciated.
My pleasure. Have a fantastic day.
You too. So that was a very telling, very interesting interview. We're going to wrap up. I wish, Perry, I had queued up when y'all started talking at the very end, that Gatorade commercial, that hard work.
You're right.
Hard work.
You're right,
that popped right in my head when you said that.
Hey, man, because it is hard work in 5-star basketball.
And I bet you it's gratifying, hard work. You know what I'm saying? You get out what you put in. We're going to wrap it up on the diamond and then go into a break in about 2-3 minutes. Texas A&M, LSU, big series. The LSU Tigers held on last night, but it was not easy. LSU appeared to be coasting against Texas A&M, which is just it has a losing record in SEC play. They were 10-11 going into last night, 10-12 now. LSU improved to 13-8-1 in the SEC. Aaron Nola was on fire. Went into the 9th inning with LSU leading 4-0. Thought they were going to coast out of it, and far be it for me to question the wisdom of former NCAA champion Paul Maneri, College World Series champion Paul Maneri, but I think he made a mistake letting Nola go into the 9th and try to finish the game, because Texas A&M had a furious rally, almost won it in 9 innings, but Jared Foster made a leaping grab, robbing Blake Alamon and sending it into extra innings. And then LSU got into trouble again. As LSU, they scored 1 run in the 10th, but A&M had runners on first and second with none out. Kurt McCune came in, ice water in his veins to nail it down in the 10th inning. So a very exciting 5-4 win for the LSU Tigers last night. They faced the Aggies this afternoon. So we'll see where that goes. LSU really needs to win this series, and they threw their best pitcher out there, and the Aggies were able to still stay competitive in the 9th. So I don't think that, in spite of the record, you can throw that out of the window. I don't think they're just going to walk right over Texas A&M.
Oh no, Texas A&M has their ace going today.
Yeah, well, we got a problem there. I think LSU. I'm going to take a wild guess. I think we probably lose today, but take the rubber match. I think we take this series 2-1, but I didn't expect it to be easy, and it's not. Where the men get paid, Major League Baseball. Just a really quick, we're not going to pound you with too much of that because it's only May, but right now, just to give you a highlight of where we stand, the AL East is a tight bunch of mediocrity. There are only 3 games separating first from last place. Baltimore in first, Toronto in last, but Baltimore's in first place with a 15-12 record, so there's a lot of shaking out to do there. Detroit running away with the AL Central as we expected, 3 games up of the Kansas City Royals with a 15-9 record. As we expected, Oakland and Texas are in a dogfight in the AL West, but the LA Angels are only 3.5 games out of first with a 500 record at 14-14. So we'll see what happens there. I just don't think the Angels have the ability or the bullpen to keep up with those guys. The Atlanta Braves are on fire, but the Washington Nationals, as expected, are just crushing folks with they're hitting the ball and pitching well, which is different for them. Usually they've been very pitching oriented, but they got some power. Washington and Atlanta only separated by a half game, and the New York Mets have a pulse. They're only 2 games back of first, as are the Miami Marlins, 2.5 games back at 15-14. We're going to get to the Central in a moment because I'm sure that's near and dear to Perry's heart. In the AL West, San Francisco is on top of the division at 18-11 with their pitching. I think folks expected them to make a recovery from last year's awful season. But what I did not expect is the Colorado Rockies, who have some of the worst pitching I've ever seen, and they've given up more runs than any other team in the National League, but they're also slamming in a lot of runs. They're only a game back of San Francisco. The Dodgers, who everyone expects to run away with the division, they're in 3rd place, but they're only a game and a half back of San Fran with a 17-13 record. I expect them to pick it up. The National League Central, though, has been the surprise. The team with the best record in Major League Baseball is the Milwaukee Brewers, 21-9, a 700 winning percentage. They also have the largest division lead of any first-place team with a 6-game lead over the St. Louis Cardinals, who have a 500 record in 2nd place. I don't know what's in the, maybe that Miller Lite, has some PEDs in it or something like that up there in Milwaukee, because they are. I expected them to have good pitching. Their pitching staff is really good. They have 3 potential all-stars, and with Kyle Loesch and Yovani Gallardo and Matt Garza. But so we expected the pitching to be good, but they're getting the power hitting. Ryan Braun back from his PED suspension. Like I said, I think that Miller Lite might have a little something in it. But Carlos Gomez cleaning the bases, and Perry, the defending division champion Cardinals, are in trouble.
No, they're not in trouble, Eric. This is it doesn't matter where you are when April turns to May. In baseball, what matters is where you are when August turns to September. So the Cardinals will be just fine. They're just now starting to get their bats going. And Wainwright is struggling a little bit, who left last season with an injury. So I did have a chance. They played the Cubs yesterday, lost a 1-run game. So they're hitting the ball, they're fielding well. They'll be just fine. And the Brewers won't be as hot as they always are. Now,
right.
I will say this, 2 things about those Milwaukee Brewers. They're doing this without the Southern University graduate Ricky Weeks, which is a little scary,
right.
Because once he comes back,
right.
there's another bat and some speed.
Right.
That goes into their lineup.
Right.
And the other thing is that they're separating themselves from this division while they're playing games within the division. They just beat the Reds yesterday,
right.
Although they had lost 2 in a row to the Cardinals prior to playing the Reds yesterday. But they're beating up on the people that they need to, which are the teams in their division. However, I don't think that it will last. At the end of the day, it'll be a 3-4. This is going to be a great division race down the stretch.
Yeah, because the Brewers have got to cool off at some point.
Yeah, but they're going to be there. The Reds are going to be there. And, of course, the Pirates and Cardinals will be there.
Right, yeah. I don't expect them to just vanish quietly into the night. The only team I expect to be in the cellar is the Chicago Cubs.
We do have our regular guest. The professor is on the line, and he is ready to drop some knowledge on us. Professor, you still with me?
Of course, good brother, I'm here.
Fantastic. Hey, man, I'm real interested to hear what you have for us today. It's been a tough week emotionally as society is dealing with what we have been dealing with this past week. What type of jewels do you have for us, sir?
Oh, Perry, first I want to just poke a little fun at you as I was observing you and Hired.
Hey, good morning, Professor. How are you?
I was listening to you and Eric's conversation, and I said, this is the second time that I've come in, and Perry was making an interjection about the St. Louis Cardinals, and I think there perhaps may be a small bit of bias as it relates to the St. Louis Cardinals, as he made his analogy of being all right towards October. I know he said it doesn't matter where they are now, it matters where you are when it's time to be Mr. October. So watch him, Eric, because he has a little bit of bias when it comes to those Cardinals guys.
All right, now, Coach, stay in your lane. Now, stay in your lane.
well, Perry, for today's jewel, I had to dig deep into my recesses and pull out something that was somewhat obscure. It's a gentleman by the name of Isaac Murphy, who was born in 1861 and died in 1896. And this is a period in American sports law that has gone largely unrecognized, and that is the contributions of black jockeys to horse racing during the 19th century.
Kentucky Derby weekend. Excellent. Great job.
Indeed. So prominent were black jockeys that only 1 in 15 rode during the first Kentucky Derby in May of 1875. Like other sports, Isaac Murphy has been around horses his whole life. Born in Lexington, Kentucky, he rode in his first race in 1876 when he was about 15 years old. One of the 1,412 races that would go on in his lifetime, he would establish and maintain many records for decades that had gone unbeaten. He was one of only one black jockey to have won the Black Derby, the Kentucky Oaks, and the Clark Stakes all in the same year. Murphy was the first rider to win back-to-back derbies. His record of three derbies wins goes unmatched for 39 years, not to be exceeded for 57. Ironically, a weight problem ended Murphy's career and his life. Prior to the spring race, he would die strenuously in his weakened condition. In February of 1896, Murphy contracted pneumonia and died. Murphy's accomplishments in horse racing, however, continue to inspire black jockeys and in 1955, Murphy was the first black jockey to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Awesome.
So shout out and kudos to Isaac Murphy during Kentucky Derby weekend.
Awesome job, Professor Isaac Murphy. Hey, Professor, man, before we let you go, man, Donald Sterling thoughts.
Wow. That is a very touchy situation. I think that the commissioner acted promptly and swiftly because he had a lot of riding on the line, a lot of people that were observing him to see what was going to be what. I think that we have no place in society for these kind of racist remarks toward individuals. I mean, these people are working for you in a sense that you're employees. But I mean, hey, I really don't want to interject too much, but
it's okay. Hey. It's okay, Professor.
Yeah, by all means.
See, here's the deal, though, Professor. At some point in our society, we have to get to the point to where we can honestly hold these conversations.
I agree.
Indeed, gentlemen, and we do. And I think race is still an issue in America. I think that we've never sat down at the table and, as you said, discuss racial matters to get to the root of the problem. In order to solve something, you have to get to the root of it, pull the weeds up. You just can't keep trimming, and it's going to always grow back.
Yes,
so, I mean, we need to have these racial conversations, and it just confirms whether you're Michael Jordan, whether you're Bill Cosby, or whether you're Jesse Jackson. The powers that be can still let you know who you are at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. No matter how much money you made for them, no matter what your station in life is, you still can be told that you are expendable, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
We sure appreciate you, sir. Awesome, T. Have a good one, man. Hail, hail.
Hail, McKinley High, gentlemen. Keep doing a great job. Love you guys.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. That was Professor Terrell Johnson. Just to bring the listeners up to speed in case you're a first-timer, maybe a newbie to Louisiana All American Sports, Professor Johnson, during the month of February, provided us, February, of course, being Black History Month, and he provided us an interesting historical fact about some type of trailblazing black athlete, in one case about Aeneas Williams, who's from Baton Rouge, stepping out of the national scene. Just a little local perspective and just some different did you knows. Like I knew, I'd heard about that jockey. Couldn't remember his name to save my life, but I knew his story. Yeah. And so, we brought Professor Johnson back. He won't be on every week like in February, but every now and then he's going to drop some nuggets on us. That was really enlightening. And you know what, though? Professor Johnson touched on something at the very end. We're going to launch into a break in a minute, but we'll leave this food for thought for the audience and for Coach. 343-9927, by the way, 225-343-9927 to talk to us. He mentioned that, no matter how much money you have or no matter what you do, the powers that be can come down on you, but we're starting to see a change here because the powers, in part, lay in those players, and they made a statement, and they compelled Commissioner Silver to act quickly and swiftly, and there's been a lot of speculation of what was said or done behind the scenes, and we saw power turn in the other direction, I think, a little nugget of it in this past week. We can bring that up on the other side, but we're going to take a short intermission. You are listening to Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM, WHYR LP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. We don't want to be all talk. Sometimes we like to get a different perspective. And on Twitter this week, I asked for some feedback from the Twitter sphere, from the general public. Some of you may be familiar with the rap song, the bounce rap song, Let Me Find Out by Fifth Ward Weeby.
Girl, you know I love you and I'm there for you. I got some new shoes and a bag of help for you. Let me find out that Gucci purse not real. Let me find out you got the internet deal. Let me find out you wearing Spanx to hide your gut. Let me find out your stomach bigger than your butt.
Very popular. And it kind of goes, it's a very lighthearted kind of silly song. Give you an example. Let me find out you're still rocking a flip phone. Let me find out it's not even much on. Let me find out your man is trying to buy the bar. Let me find out they're about to repossess his car. So, I mean, it's lighthearted, it's humorous, it's silly. Well, anyway, I asked the Twitter sphere to send us some of their, to send us a two-line, let me find out about the sports world. Here were some of the better ones that we received.
Let me find out. Let me find out.
So here's one from Nola Babe 55. Let me find out Benson ain't got a plan. Let me find out they don't re-sign Jimmy Graham.
Let me find out. Let me find out.
This one's from Bradley for Shizzle. This is kind of harsh. It says, let me find out Eric Gordon got hurt. Let me find out he really wants to wear a skirt. Ooh.
Let me find out. Let me find out.
And here's another picking on poor Tom Benson today. Let me find out Benson's money isn't long. Has a Super Bowl, can't even keep the lights on. Oh!
Let me find out. Let me find out.
And this is another one, harsh crowd. Lakers for life, 511. I love this one. Let me find out he went and gave Kobe lip. Let me find out D'Antoni got his pink slip. Ooh.
Let me find out.
And oh boy, this last one is from quote unquote Donald Sterling. Let me find out you told him I was in the Klan. Let me find out you put them pics on Instagram. She already did that, buddy.
Let me find out.
So I hope you all enjoyed Let Me Find Out. Send any of your Let Me Find Outs or anything else you want to tell us to our Twitter page at LAA Sports. That's the Louisiana All American Sports Twitter page at LAA Sports.
Let me find out. Let me find out. Girl, you know I love it and I'm there for you. I have some new shoes and a bag of help for you.
Ooh, let me find out. 343-9927, area code 225-343-9927. If you want to get in on the conversation today. So since since Donald Sterling and Instagram don't seem to get along too much, we'll move on to the next topic du jour, and that is the Donald Sterling controversy. For those of you that might have had a 7-day medically induced coma, Los Angeles Clippers owner Donald Sterling was revealed to have been making racist comments during a discussion, I guess an argument with his girlfriend/mistress, V. Stiviano. That tape was released by TMZ last Friday. By Saturday, it was all the buzz, and by Tuesday, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver had banned Donald Sterling for life from the NBA. He is not allowed to take part in any operations. He is not allowed to make any personnel decisions. He may not attend any games. He may not show up at the facilities. He has been kicked to the curb by the NBA, and very swift in what I think was an appropriate decision there by the commissioner.
Yeah, Eric, I'm not as impressed. I understand that the NBA did as much as they could do. However, to me, this is the equivalent of a paid vacation. Because the man's still, not young man, he's 80-something years old. The man is still profiting off of those very same people that he didn't want at his game, that he stated that he didn't want at his game. And he profited off of them in his real estate business, those same folks.
The same ones he didn't want to rent apartments to in certain sections.
Right, right. So I'm not as impressed. And I'm real curious to see, here's what I think is going to happen. Because we as Americans have such a short-term memory, Coach Klein just spoke about it, the short-termism, you know, and we have that as a society. It's not just in the game of basketball. Those kids are getting it from somewhere, and it's from us as adults. And this, come next year, when it comes time to vote, these owners take a vote, it'll be done without a lot of fanfare.
Right.
And we will be on to America's favorite pastime. We'll be discussing
the NFL.
Yeah, who's playing who this Sunday coming up, and without little fanfare. Even if they can muster up 23 votes, right now we have 13 owners that have come out publicly and stated that they're voting against Donald Sterling.
Coach, I'd be shocked if it wasn't unanimous. I'd be stunned if it weren't unanimous.
Wouldn't stun me at all. And they're gonna base it on this, Eric, the same issue that I have, and I think that you have with this whole deal, is that this was a private conversation, and none of them want their private conversations made public. I know I don't want my private conversations made public. So in that aspect of this whole scenario, I have some empathy for Donald Sterling in that area.
Right. No, it was, like I said, I think the decision that was made was fair. I think it's the only decision that Silver could have made, but the issue came up by foul means. There's definitely I think actually in California, if you tape a private conversation and then leak it without consent, I believe that's a misdemeanor, a crime. There's a lot of that's probably not going to get prosecuted. A lot of he said, she said. But the point is that it was a private conversation with his girlfriend. If you listen to the tape, it was clearly set up. She was trying to make a point. Donald Sterling said to DeJour.com, quote, "I wish I'd just paid her off."
I wish he'd just paid her off. And you know what? That tells a lot to me about this man's character.
Oh yeah. He's a known alpha hotel.
Well,
There's no getting around.
He feels like he can buy anything, and once he buys you, then you're at his disposal. You can do it. And it was evident when he made the comment about, "Hey, I buy them houses. I buy them cars."
Yeah, man. It's like, do they make the games or do I make the games? Listen up, Mr. Sterling. You don't have much of a game without players. And I think the players kind of made that abundantly clear, which is why you'll be watching from your mansion or wherever you'll be watching it from, if you're watching it all. But
and you know what, though, Eric? Who's to say that, the average ticket taker, and with his type of money, they can't stop that man from getting in if he desires to. That man can disguise himself.
Put on some funny glasses.
Right. If that's his goal. Now, I don't think that he would go that far because he wants to sit in the owner's seat.
Yeah, they know who he is.
Well, if he goes as himself.
Yeah. If he got that, could get ugly. In L.A., sure, where they have the riots, man, that'll get ugly quick. But yeah, I get your point, though.
Yes, that the average ticket taker wouldn't stop it.
No. And but I think, like I said, I want to see. This story is only a week old, really, which is just amazing how quickly it's advanced.
And we're all kind of exhausted.
We are. I'm starting to get Donald Sterling fatigue. I mean, I remember thinking it was media gold for the first couple of days, and I'm just Donald Sterling. That Sterling is tarnished as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to see where they go.
But if I could go, I don't want to totally abandon it yet, because the man said something, and this is what was most appalling to me, is that the culture statement. It is just the culture. I didn't create it, to paraphrase what he said.
Well, you're perpetuating it, pal.
He didn't create it, nor does he have any interest in changing it.
Right.
So listen up, silly mortals. It is your interest to change the culture. It is your interest to change the culture. Don't allow the NBA to go back to business as usual. I understand Donald Sterling saying he's not interested in changing the culture. I don't understand you out there listening not being interested in changing the culture, because the culture doesn't benefit you.
That's right. And so I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to be a little more passive in my. Perry said, and I certainly absolutely understand and don't blame him. He didn't watch any of the games until he's out of there. And hey, any of the Clippers games until he's out of there.
That's right.
And, look, I fully understand that. I'm going to sit back. Adam Silver, here comes this word again. Adam Silver has earned a little good credit with me.
Okay.
Hopefully it's better than the good credit I've given some of the NFL teams this year, where I said I'm going to pick them on good credit. They turn around and lose. But I'm going to see where it goes with this. I have a lot. The man had a good opening salvo, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt until he proves me otherwise. I think he's going to handle this in a way that's satisfactory to everybody, every reasonable person.
But speaking of games, man, we've got some really good games to talk about. Also, we've got coming up right after our show,
Noel Jackson, Music Satisfaction on 96.9 FM. Let's talk about the games that are over. Last night, if you didn't see it, you missed a thriller. Houston and Portland went back and forth and back. The road teams had a lot of advantages in that game. Portland took the first two games at the Toyota Center, and they put the Rockets in a tough spot where teams rarely come back from. And now that makes teams that drop their first two games at home 3-20 in best-of-7 series, but Houston did not go down without a fight. Chandler Parsons laid the ball up with less than 1 second to go to give the Rockets a 2-point lead, but then Damian Lillard, last year's Rookie of the Year, continues to build the light that is shining from his star as he hit a 3-point shot in that final 9/10 of a second to give the Trailblazers a 1-point victory over the Houston Rockets as time expired. They will face the winner of that Dallas San Antonio series, the Mavericks staved off elimination to force a Game 7 last night. So that will go to the AT&T Center, and I believe that game is going to be played on Sunday. That'll be played tomorrow. So we'll have 2 Game 7s. Dirk Nowitzki is 4-0 in Game 7s in his career, but you got to go on the road in Game 7. It's very, very, very hard and very rare that Game 7s are won on the road. Finally, the Brooklyn Nets staved off elimination at home in Brooklyn against the Toronto Raptors. DeMar DeRozan, again, continues to keep going off. He scored 28 points for Toronto. I now know the real deal about him. It was a name I just heard before, but he's made me stand up and pay attention to him. That series will now go back to the Air Canada Centre in Toronto for Game 7. The winner of that series will face the defending champion Miami Heat, who swept the Charlotte Bobcats. While I just went on mentioned a minute ago how I think it's very hard to win Game 7s, I do think, in spite of how overwhelming the home court advantage is in a Game 7 situation, I think the experience of the Brooklyn Nets with future Hall of Famers Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, both of whom have won an NBA championship, both of whom have won conference titles before, Darren Williams, who is now a seasoned veteran, Joe Johnson, Jason Kidd, who is a rookie coach, but obviously is a future Hall of Fame player. I think that experience trumps the youth and energy and momentum and the home court advantage of the Toronto Raptors. So I'm going to take the Brooklyn Nets in Game 7 of that series. And this afternoon we have a record 3 Game 7s in one day in the NBA playoffs. The one that I think is just comic tragic that it's even gotten this far is the Indiana Pacers and the Atlanta Hawks. Although Atlanta's chance to pull off the upset, they are a sub-500 team with the 8th seed in the East. Their chance went out of the window when they dropped Game 6 to Indiana, who played like a team with a fire under their backside. And I do think, in spite of Roy Hibbert's virtual turtle act as he sticks his head and his tail inside of his shell, I do think they beat Atlanta at home, but I do think they're going to have a big problem with the Washington Wizards, who are playing, they're playing mistake-free basketball, and their young guys are getting better, and their veterans are stepping up. So that's going to be an interesting second-round matchup, but I like Indiana in Game 7 in that series.
Yeah, I didn't think Indiana would be here, man, and you hit the nail on the head. They played some inspired basketball in Game 6.
Inspired or scared, but either way, fear is a great motivator. And Coach Frank Vogel's going to have to coach his best game plan for Game 7. I think he will. Memphis Grizzlies are in trouble. They've given the 7th-seeded Memphis Grizzlies in the West have given OKC a heck of a battle. They had 4 consecutive overtime games between Games 2 and 5. Memphis had a chance to close it out on Game 6 and laid an egg the size of Texas. And then Zach Randolph lost his cool. And we talked about this last week, about how, enforcers enforce, and they goad the stars into doing stupid things. We saw Nene get a suspension that really could have hurt his team, or got kicked out of the game and really could have hurt his team in the Chicago-Washington series. Chicago was just too decimated, and here we are. Zach Randolph now is suspended for Game 7 and will not play in a Game 7 in Oklahoma City for punching reserve OKC Thunder center. Steven Adams, that's his name. I didn't even know who Steven Adams was until he hit him in the face. That game was a blowout. It was never even close. He let his temper get the better of him, and I think that's going to cost us. He's one of the 2 stars in that team. Marc Gasol's the only other big threat they have, and Gasol can't do it alone, especially the way OKC can shoot. So I think the Thunder survive.
It's hard to believe that Minnesota can win that game without Zach Randolph. I mean, not Minnesota.
Memphis, I got you. Starts with an M. Alliteration. And finally, the Clippers and Golden State Warriors meet in Game 7 should be very, very entertaining. That's all I'll say about that. If you're taking my stance and kind of wait and see, you're willing to watch the game, I think it'll be great basketball. Hey, I don't blame you if you take Perry's stance and don't watch and just listen to next week's Louisiana All American Sports for us to sum up what happened.
We'll update it for you. Don't worry.
We'll keep you posted. That's more incentive to tune back in. So we have about 2 minutes remaining. Any parting thoughts here today?
Yeah, man. The Southern University Jaguars baseball team is in Houston playing Prairie View playing Prairie View.
Right.
So for their final 2 games, that should end I think tomorrow's the last game.
Correct. They have, I think it's a doubleheader today.
Yeah.
I think, and then tomorrow Prairie View's playing. They could use the win for seeding in the SWAC tournament. They're right around 500 in SWAC play.
Right.
So Southern's gonna have a problem.
NFL draft coming up Thursday.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to that.
Hey,
and we
man,
didn't get a chance to discuss
the new
that.
format that they're using as well, man. In the second round on, they're going to have former players of those teams come up and call the draft. I like that.
That's cool. And it keeps a connection between the players and the film. You know, the NFL, Roger Goodell, and before him, Paul Tagliabue were brilliant in making they've made the draft into an event. Back in the day, when Pete Rozelle was the commissioner, it was something you'd hear about the next day. You might, if some big draft took place, you might hear an update on the radio about your favorite team.
Right.
It's a primetime event.
That's right.
It's a primetime, nationally televised, full weekend event. The NFL is good at just dominating the sports landscape.
So we're going to get on out of here, man. Hey, next week, Eric will have a solo show, so make sure you join him, tune in, call in, so that he doesn't totally ruin the Louisiana.
That's right. You get a whole 60 minutes of me just talking, and y'all know I can't stop talking, so please join us.
As we do it always at this time, Eric, ADT, JNS, love you.
Have a good afternoon.